Carnival very much has its own soundtrack. There are probably a half dozen songs that people outside of South Louisiana may not know at all, but if you play them for somebody from New Orleans, it immediately triggers the sort of Pavlovian response where they want to like go to a parade and dance in the street and eat king cake. So one of those songs would certainly be Mardi Gras Mambo by Art Neville and the Hawkettes. Another one would be Carnival Time by Al Carnival Time Johnson. All those songs are great carnival songs. They put people in the mood. But two of the all-time classics were by Professor Longhair. Those are Go to the Mardi Gras and Big Chief. Those two songs are sort of at the heart of the carnival canon. And people outside of New Orleans may not know them, but every local here knows them and every local responds in the same way. I mean, it signals that, yeah, it's carnival time. And on both of those songs, you just hear this very, very distinctive Professor Longhair piano style. It's kind of like rollicking, a little bit laid back, a bit of a syncopated beat, but it just strikes to the heart of everybody in New Orleans. Professor Longhair was arguably one of the most influential New Orleans musicians, and certainly one of the most influential piano players out of New Orleans. He influenced the entire piano tradition that came after him. Guys like Dr. John, Fats Domino, Art Neville, Allen Toussaint. All these guys cited Professor Longhair as a major influence on their sound and style. And no one can really replicate exactly what he did because he had such an idiosyncratic way of playing, but his records definitely had a major impact on all the New Orleans music that followed. Professor Longhair really didn't have any national hits at all. He had one song in the early 1950s called Bald Head that charted on the rhythm and blues charts nationally. And even though he recorded for Atlantic and a bunch of these other labels, he never broke through like a lot of the other New Orleans folks. So he was one of those guys that his influence was much bigger than his own career was. And after his first run of recordings in the 1950s, he disappeared from the music scene. I mean, he was working as a car dealer, he was sweeping floors at a record store. His career was basically over from the early 1960s until he was quote-unquote rediscovered in 1971 when he was invited to perform at the New Orleans Jazz and Heritage Festival that year. At the time, he lived in an apartment nearby. He walked to the gig, and he came out at the 71 festival, and everyone was just blown away by how he played piano, his singing style, which was utterly unique. He sings in a way that makes you think he knows something that you don't know, that you would like to know. That relaunched his career. What made his style unique was that he wasn't a traditional rhythm and blues piano player or a blues player at all. He had all these other influences that very much were a byproduct of his upbringing in New Orleans, specifically the Caribbean influences. The rumba styles, the calypso rhythms, all that sort of stuff that he wove into his music. And there's a great story, which may or may not be true, that one of the pianos he learned to play on was missing some keys, so that affected the way he did chords and what have you on the piano. He distilled his own style, and you can recognize one of his records the moment you hear it. 40 years after his death, he remains a patron saint of New Orleans music in general, and certainly of Mardi Gras music, because of Go to the Mardi Gras and Big Chief. And so as long as there's a Mardi Gras, we're going to still be listening to the music of Professor Longhair.